I know you've said he's in your big three. I think this is solidified.
I mean, the last 2 albums won Grammys.
Yeah.
He's gonna probably lock up another #1, hopefully, with this one.
I don't think Ari got that kind of time or the patience to really try to play this indie game.
You really try to put somebody away for, charges that are going to be murder, going to be,
You need more than
multi-decade sentences, life sentences, all these kind of things.
It really feels like rap kind of gave up this election. We kind of sat this one out.
Hey guys, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Billboard Unfiltered.
It's good.
Gentlemen!
What up?
Yo.
We're back again. About to close out this week in a good way. We got some music on Monday.
Sure did.
From a certain cat, Tyler, the Creator. His 7th studio album, CHROMAKOPIA.
I enjoyed the Monday release. I enjoyed the Monday morning.
It was good, right?
Yeah,
Nice
going
rush.
to work, listening to a new album in the morning on a Monday morning, starting the week with some good music. I like that. We should try more of that.
If more releases are as good as this one, I am all for Mondays.
We could be on to something. Tyler dropped Monday, Earth Gang dropped yesterday, so who knows?
We're going to change the whole system
Here,
up.
make Trevor's job just impossible.
But either way, Tyler put out his 7th studio album. Big features. I'm talking about Sexy Red, Lil Wayne, Gorilla, Doechii, Schoolboy Q, Daniel Caesar. It's looking like pretty dope projections. It should have a strong debut. Let's talk about reactions. This is his first album since 2021. Having him back on the scene, how do y'all feel about this Monday release of an album?
I like it. I think, we were coming off such a high with the last album that everyone, including myself, was like, where's he going to go next? What's he going to do? The first single, I was excited because I thought he was going to go in a new direction. I thought he found, some new inspiration, that he found a new bag to play in. You get into the album, though, and you're like, oh, this is still him, like, playing around with, like, early 2000s Neptunes. Like, he's, like, trying to remake #1 over and over again.
Hell of a record, by the way.
Great record. But, with that said, I think it's a strong effort. I don't think it's his best album. I still think his last album is his best album, but I think this is really good. He's now proven with this album to me that he has a bar that he won't go below. He's just so good now that for the foreseeable future, he's just gonna be here.
Yeah.
Right? He's just gonna keep making fire. So, yeah, it's good. Good for him.
I love that. Kyle?
I loved it. Yeah, I think it's probably battling for top 3 for me out of his catalog. I like hearing people grow up on their records, and it's really cool to hear him mature. Him talking about pregnancy scares and aging, and how his relationship or lack thereof with his father influenced the way that he looks at love and relationships as his own man now. I see a lot of influence from Mr. Morale from 444 in terms of like stripping your ego to kind of come to terms with who you used to be, who you are, and who you want to become. I think those are all really interesting questions that is cool to hear Tyler's take on, especially as him being who he is and where he's from. I love the Southern rap influences on this record a lot.
Yeah, very heavy.
Yeah.
Really, really
Very.
heavy.
I didn't see that coming.
Doechii on the track with an Uncle Luke sample was crazy.
Yep.
And then I like the HBCU marching band feel is sticky, and like, the Young Buck sample on that one too.
Yep.
Really liked. Like, I had a really good time listening, but I think it was cool that we started off the year with a big moment for the West Coast, and we're kind of closing it out with another big moment for the West Coast. And all the music is explicitly informed, but also reflective of their respective hoods. And I think that's a really cool moment for hip hop, and I really enjoyed it.
That's a good point, man. West Coast really fucking dominating this year,
Yeah.
bro. Like,
They killed me.
where the fuck New York at?
It's funny because I saw like Rory and Ma, they just put out an episode a couple days ago, and I think it was Rory trying to make the argument that the West Coast never really embraced Tyler up until recently.
I mean, no one embraced Tyler.
Right.
Yeah.
Really. Like, they were, Odd Future were outcasts. They
Right.
were purposefully positioned themselves away from what was going on in the mainstream. It wasn't until a few albums ago that Tyler was like, no, I want to be a star. Like, I want to be a legitimate star. Like, I don't want to be like an insane clown posse where, like, I have this world that I've built off to the side that's really sustaining me, and, I'm good, but I'm not considered by the rest of the rap game.
He's playing with the big boys.
Yeah, he's like, I want
Right.
to compete, and he's been competing. But it's like you got to play the game to be in the game. So yeah, like no one embraced him and no one accepted him, but he also wasn't trying to be embraced or accepted up until recently.
I forget which track he said it on, but he's like, "Yo, I'm the second best after Kenny."
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like biggest sell since Kenny. It's like it's true. Look
Yeah.
at the pop out. Like
Right.
that reaction when he came out on stage was
crazy.
absolutely insane. Like the guy's beyond bona fide star.
Yeah.
Right. Trev.
Yeah, I mean that line in particular, I know was getting a lot of resonance, and I thought because I remember at the pop out when he did show up, and it was like you know, again like how like just that rise of like, whoa, like homeboy is here, and like he's really finna, you know, go toe to toe with all these people that you wouldn't expect him to have been at that kind of event. So for him to pop out, get that reception, really did solidify it. I mean, I like the album a lot. I thought it had the right mix of like introspection. Like I'm thinking like the Like Him record, like I thought was really, you know, I didn't see that kind of thing coming. And obviously you have the sort of interludes with I'm not sure, his mom, and like, you know, sort of giving, you know, sort of setting up a lot of these themes and questions, and you know the pressure of, you know, we want to have a kid, and we want to, you know, what's it going to be like, and make sure he's this and that. And so I thought that was a good connective tissue to kind of throw out through the album. But yeah, I mean, like between Tyler, it's like I love that it just is fundamentally him. Like there's plenty of records that are, you know, quirky. Like when I first heard, you know, Noid, I was kind of like, okay, like as a start off record, I was like, okay, I'm not sure where this era is going.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I'm gonna be the right passenger for this train. But that actually seemed to be one of the more, like, that to me wasn't really representative of the full album. I think Sticky, like,
It's a banger.
it's like that little hook is stuck in my motherfucking head. I don't know who's gonna play that first.
Yeah.
You know, who's gonna do something special with that? Whether it's like an HBCU or whether it's, I mean, hopefully a video or some shit comes out, they push that song, because Tyler's not necessarily a, you know, mainstream hit artist kind of guy. Obviously, you got Earthquake, What's Your Name? They make waves, but to me, like that's instantly a song, and I know it's got glow, I know it's got sexy, which some people might think is a cheat code, but I mean, use what you got. And I think like that song in particular can really go and bring him to the next level. And one of the things that particularly like about this album is it's probably gonna have a really big debut. Like everyone's sort of expecting it. Tyler's only gotten bigger with all of his albums have improved on the last one, so this one looks like it's gonna continue that trend. But there is no sense that, I know sometimes artists, you know, we say, oh, you kind of get that big first week because everyone liked your last shit, and you kind of, you know, it starts off big, and does it really last? I don't have any, you know, real sense that this is going to fall off. It's just like, okay, you know, we heard it, you know, just because you're Tyler, the Creator, and we're going to put this shit to the side. I think, you know, hopefully this thing can stick around, you know, for a long time and be a real contender in the top 10 for a lot of weeks.
Yeah, no, I echo that 1,000%. I think for me, some of my favorite records, I love how Darling I bleeds into Hey Jane. Perfect mix right there. I thought he used the features real skillfully. Something that I really appreciate about Tyler, I have not seen an artist of his caliber have enjoyed such a second win. Like the second half of his career is incredible to me.
Yeah.
Post, what was it? I would say started with Flower Boy.
Yeah, definitely
Flower Boy on
Yeah.
that half of his career.
And Flower Boy was like a reaction to the response
For
of
Cherry Bomb.
Cherry Bomb.
Right.
He was like, "Oh, I can do better than
Yeah.
this. Like I can actually play the game in a real way."
From 2011 to 2016, he was just that weird, eccentric, odd future guy, and then he just really.
Kid on the playground, you kind of okay.
Yeah, you he eating his own boogers. Let him rock. Yeah. And he has just been flawless when it comes to expressing his vulnerabilities. Take Off Your Mask is another record that I love with Daniel. Yeah.
Oh my God.
You know, so I think he's really emerged as one of the leading figures in rap. I know you've said he's in your big three. I think this is solidified.
I mean, listen, the last two albums won Grammys.
Yeah.
He's gonna probably lock up another #1, hopefully, with this one. I haven't really heard anyone say anything awful about this record. It's pretty like universally liked. This tour is probably gonna do really well next year as well. I'm very confident having him in my locked like new age top 3 for sure. I mean, critically, commercially, he's got it all.
He said lifetime contract.
The only thing I don't get,
I'm low key.
which I wish, is just when he started the rollout and like Noid comes out and you're like, oh, this is gonna be this. I kind of wish it was that. I wish, listen to the album, it was like, I'm still a little confused as to what the theme of the album is supposed to be, or like, no, I know what the theme of the album is listening to it. It's very clear in that way. I don't get the marketing for the album. I don't get why he has this character.
Yeah, the album art threw me for
Yeah.
Like when his mom was the narrator, I was like, what is...
I heard
Yeah,
something
going
about
on
light versus
here?
dark.
What I saw from like a clip from his speech before his listening
Yeah.
party, and I think it was Into It Dumb. He was like, I was really inspired by the honesty that Kendrick displayed on Mr. Morale, and I wanted to do that on my own record, but it felt like I couldn't do it all the way, so I had to kind of put a mask of my own face on myself to be that honest. So
Yeah,
this is like the
I
whole
did see that. Yeah.
mask
Shout out
thing
Paul Lawrence
is-
Dunbar, you know?
There we go.
Yeah.
But it's I don't know. I kind of wish he went further with it. I kind of
Yeah.
wish it was like, you know, his early albums, he would have like the psychiatrist speaking to him, like that character. I kind of wish he pushed this whole mask wearing guy with the weird haircut as far as it can go. Also, his mom reminded me of the Frank album. Of Frank Ocean's album.
It was,
Yeah.
I was
Very
this
like
is a
I
cute
thought
little
it was
feature
Frank's
that
mom
I
at first. I was like,
Yo,
this is very. I was like, this is weird.
Mama Ocean popping up.
Yeah, I was like, oh, maybe she's just like talking to everybody
Yeah.
in Odd Future. But great album.
Yeah, great album. He'll be taking his show on the road next year with Lil Yachty, Paris, Texas. So be on the lookout for that.
I low key also want to just you know, for my own little TikTok, I want to get Judge Judy to hear Judge Judy and see what Judge Judy got to say.
Would not
about
be
it.
surprised.
That was like the one track I didn't love off the record. I thought the hook was corny, but that was the only thing.
Yeah.
The bun's corny to me. But I
Huh.
love the idea of Judge Judy watching.
Cause
I
yo,
feel like
and-
she would like
I didn't
really
mind that track.
fuck
The-
with it.
The track I thought was a little corny. Not. It's weird because I love Doechie's part on the song, but the song as a whole, I was like, I can do it. I can kind of do without this.
Yeah.
Well, he says in the back half, so
Yeah, but I mean, Doechii was like, she's just fucking
yo,
Amazing.
She's on a great run.
murdering
Yeah.
everything.
Second
She
half
should
of the
be
year.
open for his
Yeah.
tour.
Yeah.
She's been cooking.
She's a certified future star.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
Oh yeah.
Daniel Caesar getting a couple looks on this too. I was
What I
like,
tell y'all,
I ain't going that
told y'all,
far.
He never really
I ain't going that
disappeared for
far.
real.
I ain't going that far.
Listen,
Listen,
he did disappear.
Madison
That guy
Square
was
Garden
gone.
sold out.
Double-
Madison Square Garden
and
sold
Hollywood
out.
Bowl, I believe. Yeah, he did LA. and
Wait,
New
wait.
York.
He
Are we
disap-
saying that Daniel Caesar is like a thing again?
For a certain demographic,
Well,
maybe.
it's
I'm not sure if he was ever not a thing for a lot of listeners. For a lot of listeners, he never really went anywhere. If we
Right.
don't want to admit that, but like that was a packed ass arena that I went to last fall. Can't make that up.
I know we gotta move on, but that's crazy. That's crazy. Daniel Caesar is definitely gone. He was like,
For
Woody and-
for a
before
sect
Bieber
of
was a classic, I
listeners,
will
did Justin
say that.
Bieber bring him back? Is that
For a
the
sect
first-
of
that's the
listeners,
first
he
thing
was
that-
definitely gone.
Features was
But
gone.
I will say for a lot of people who didn't care about the whole Yes Jules stuff,
Yeah.
he didn't go anywhere.
Right.
Like,
Right. I just mean like,
as a cultural
There was,
figure,
like,
yeah,
there
as a
was-
commercial
as a
thing,
best
yeah.
part,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
yeah, there was a time where he
Yes.
was
Could've
like
been kinda-
everywhere.
right.
Yes,
And he was like
yes,
the
yes,
next
yes.
big thing in music.
Yes.
He was fucking huge. There were people proposing at his concerts.
Yeah.
That was like a fucking trend that was happening. That was on the news and shit. And then he was gone. Like he just wasn't on TV. He wasn't on social media anymore. Like people were probably still listening to him, of course. He's very
Yeah.
talented.
That one social media clip that went.
But, you know, I
The
think
one that
I'm skewed because my years for that were on a campus and they didn't give a fuck on the campus.
I mean, that's fair.
So,
That's fair.
but obviously, in like a greater sense of
Yeah.
culture, yes, the nigga definitely fell off.
Shout out to Daniel.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say.
I'm glad he's back.
Daniel's back outside.
Moment, you know?
We'll see what you do in 25. Staying on the path for what's going on in 2024. This actually just happened pretty recent. Miss Ari Lennox. Oof, Queen of Dreamville. She put out her record Smoke last week. Fire record. But hadn't been tracking too well. YouTube video, the YouTube streams, not good. Streaming in general, not good. She went on Instagram Live yesterday to voice her complaint with her label, Interscope/Dreamville, asking to get out of her contract, saying she's not receiving the proper help in terms of marketing. Several artists came out to her defense. T-Pain, Kehlani, Ari Lennox, as we know, somebody who's uber talented, put out Shea Butter Baby. ASL has gotten the acclaim, but the numbers just hasn't been there for her. So curious to hear if you're Ari Lennox, or if you are in Ari Lennox's corner, how would you guide her? What are some steps she should take?
I mean, seems as if she's come to the conclusion that she doesn't best thrive in a label landscape, and I would just take that to its natural next step and really do try to get out of that deal and try to make it work for yourself solo, because at the end of the day, your mental health, your happiness, and your security, and you know your music and your art is what's most important if you're approaching this from a artistic standpoint first and foremost. So if this is just not working for her, it doesn't seem like it has been working. I mean, we look back at something like her on the Rod Wave tour getting stuff thrown at her and stuff like that. So like doesn't seem like this configuration is the best for her right now. So she's got my support in trying to, do this solo, do this independently.
Trev?
Yeah, I mean, as far as like the label situation goes, the only a place that maybe makes sense to hop in terms of the major system, if you can get there, is like RCA does really well with their R&B artists.
They got an influx of cats though, man. It's a lot of people
The only thing that's tough is, obviously you're gonna be, fighting with a lot of your contemporaries and your peers. So there's a question of what kind of resources you're gonna get and what the pecking order over there might be. So I get that. Obviously they do know what to do with, the R&B crowd though. So there's one look. If that doesn't work, then yeah, I mean, I think Kyle is right. I mean, maybe you exit the major label system for a while. Clearly you have, you do have a core support, which is people are vocal about, like they do like Ari, they want to hear from her. So it's not like the problem is, in a way, nobody shows up. I mean, maybe it's not the mightiest army, but perhaps you can, build in a different way. Obviously, you'll have way more control over what your sound and your image and everything are like. So, I think it's at least worth a try to give, the full sense of who Ari Lennox is and what kind of music she wants to make and what lane she wants to go in. And, if that doesn't work, of course, then you pivot from there. But it's probably worth a try. And especially, I mean, look, if you're an independent artist, now is one of the probably best times in music history to do that. You've got way more access to different platforms. Just throw out an example. I mean, what Tinashe did this year, obviously going, bringing Nasty up, going viral, really making a real splash. And it took a lot of time and a lot of work, but she got there. And I mean, even No Broke Boys is coming along and doing this thing. So there is precedent for that.
Yeah.
Just one of those things where, you're going to really have to, without the major label support, you're going to have to get your hands dirty and really make it happen.
And to that point, right, I think, and I said this earlier, a lot of cats need to be mindful. Going independent, you have to work 10 times as harder. You don't have the label's budget to play around with.
Yeah.
You're coming out of your own pocket. You're going to have to be willing to invest. You brought up Tinashe. 2-on came out in 2014.
Yeah.
That was her first hit. Nasty was her first hit in a decade. I don't think Ari got that kind of time. You know what I'm saying? Or the patience to really try to play this indie game. Ari, I'm going to say this, baby. Hit up Rock Nation. Dead ass. Hit up Rock Nation.
Okay.
Help them get you out of that contract.
Not Uncle Jay.
Or try to rework the structuring with Interscope and what it looks like. When it comes to R&B, who's that? You have Black, you have Summer Walker. I'm trying to think of Interscope. Black, Summer.
And they're all like Renaissance, right?
Yeah, I think LVRN. Somebody said it in the comments when I was watching her video. I think LVRN would be a good fit.
Yeah, I mean,
Ella is that Interscope?
10 Summers, Interscope, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if she's been served best as her position, kind of being like the sole R&B person in Dreamville, like as a crew. That works for some people. I feel like that kind of worked to like Sets advantage for TDE, but it didn't feel like the fans embraced her in the same way in terms of like how that structure is set up. So maybe she does need to just get in with a more solely R&B collective or just R&B fronted situation. That might help expand her reach a little bit and really cultivate those fans, because people show up for Ari. Like I picked Smoke as my pick, I think last episode. It was on Fresh Picks for that week. People loved Pressure. People love Shea Butter Baby. Like there's an audience that is actively, looking out for Ari Lennox. It's just a matter of wrangling them in the right place.
Yeah, I mean, that Smoke video, I was looking before we started, has, 500,000.
Okay.
It's been about a week and a half. So, I mean, yeah, so it's like clearly, I ain't getting 500,000 views on my music videos. So we know that we know, that's right. If y'all want to support, it's true.
It's a great bar.
But clearly, like, there is a real appetite and movement there if you can get 500,000, in a week and a half. So there is, I think, an audience that will support her And maybe the fact, I know you say, hey, look, you got to work harder. When you maybe have that pressure on you to deliver, if you're going to be, the one CEO making sure the lights are on and everything like that, that gives you a new motivation. But also, again, creatively, if you feel more free and more in control of your projects and you have more passion behind them, then that obviously is going to give you a lot more impetus to get out there and work and make sure that, the music that you want to make is being heard and the collaborations that you want to do and the people you want to be with. So maybe it's just a creative reset, in that sense that she needs.
I wish her the best.
There we go.
Very, very talented. I wish her the best.
There we go. Hey, man. Ari, praying for you, baby. Smoke is a banger, so let's keep it going.
I'm curious. Do we ever think about, what the current setup is? Obviously, Smoke suggests that there's a new album on the way, a new project.
Yeah, so there's a new album on the way. I heard, she said it, not even I heard. She said it, Interscope shot 2 videos. It's just a matter if she wants to release the other one now.
Okay. That's always thorny when you're sort of publicly in battle. Hopefully, just the album, the support and everything that it's going to need.
Just want to know why she went on that Rod Wave tour. Anywho.
Okay.
Switching gears.
Question box.
Right? Switching gears. Unfortunate news. Lil Durk. Feds got him. Feds got Durkio for a murder for hire. If you guys have been privy to this, him and Quando Rondo have been feuding the last few years. Quando Rondo and his people were allegedly involved in the murder of King Von in 2020. And the feds believe that Durk was responsible for a retaliation attack against Quando in 2022 in Los Angeles. Feds took him. The brother
intercepted him on the way to the plane.
Intercepted him. He apparently had 3 trips lined up to 3 foreign countries. I don't know if it was an escape plan, but
I don't think he was escaping.
I think the brother was.
I think you might have been trying to confuse that.
You just happen to niggas just be playing in 3 different flights.
3 decoys.
He's a jet setter.
Bro,
jet setter.
3 different flights is crazy.
It's illegal. You can't fly no more. You can't.
But 3 flights.
Niggas can't take trips.
It's like my grandma said. You can only drive 1 car at a time. You can't be on 3 different planes.
3 different flights is nasty.
Dirk is different.
But he's,
that's like, what makes you gotta like that way,
I say this to say he also had an album that was slated to come out in November. We do not know the status of that currently. But this kind of just leads to the point of we're seeing an influx of rappers heading to jail and prison, being incarcerated, I guess the question is, let's talk about this concern with our guys going in to the system and how this has been affecting hip-hop overall. We've seen Casanova, obviously Diddy, Tory Lanez, Pooh Shiesty. The numbers growing year by year.
I think I'm most interested in how this relates to us using lyrics in cases. Some of these people did heinous things. And, that's just not really up for debate in certain cases.
I'm also going to remove Diddy from this.
Yeah.
I think that's like a different...
That's a different era.
That's a different different thing.
Still crazy nonetheless.
Yeah, still nuts, but
more than crazy,
But, the whole thing with using lyrics in court cases to prosecute these guys, I'm very staunchly against. When I was at the DNC, I interviewed Texas Congressman Greg Kasser about the Rap Act, which is still in congressional limbo. It's just in the House of Judiciary right now. But that's essentially a bill to try and stop that. Legally, you cannot use those lyrics in court cases because it's one, y'all guys don't do this for any other genre or race of people.
Yep.
And on top of that, it's music. It is art. It's self-expression. It's not a direct admittance of anything.
It's tough though, man. When you got cats like YMW Melly.
Get them to say it in the confessional.
Murder on my mind.
Get them to say it in the confessional. Him saying
that's
stuff.
Just art, right?
It is art.
You know how many country ballads there are about robbing and killing people?
Yeah, people embellish so many details in lyrics that.
But some cats are brash enough.
Sure.
To just and they're dickheaded enough.
They are.
I think we have like the
So
whole.
you can't be mad if cats they smell cheese and they're gonna go towards where the cheese
But
is
I
at.
mean, we think about the scale and the scope. If you really try to put somebody away for, charges that are gonna be murder, gonna be,
you need more than
multi-decade
lyrics.
sentences, life sentences, all these kind of things, and it's gonna hinge on, that one bar you said, right? Like, I don't want my jury looking at that and be like, well, he did say, I'll blast a nigga in the face if he. And
that
I guess
reminds me of the Boondocks episode. You saw that, right?
Yeah. But I feel like if we're like to Trevor's point, if it's like, oh, we can use this song that this person made to put this person away. It's like we're abdicating responsibility of actually investigating.
Of course, right.
These things. It's like, yeah, all right. You have a lot of people have come down on drill rap because of this very thing. Because you have a bunch of young black men who are rapping, allegedly rapping about, the things that they do in the street and it's like, a badge of honor to them to be like, here's what I did to my op. Also as a warning, like, don't fuck with me because this is what I do, right? Even still, you cannot put somebody away for creating art. There is so much art out there that has also purported to put on or into public record the personal feelings of its creator. I'm talking about films and photography and even like some sculptures that have been made. If we're gonna start looking at all that shit, then all right, let's go back all the way and start locking everybody up who's even been connected to things like this. Like, I agree that it's something that is more brash than before. Mm-hmm. It's a trend that I don't personally enjoy, but man, if we start locking niggas up for art, then that's a.
I agree with what y'all saying. What I'm saying is, it's gonna cause people to start sniffing around.
They're already sniffing.
Right. So why even put them in a position to sniff? That's what I'm saying.
Why self-censor? That's what you're asking. Like, I feel like you shouldn't
kill people first. Like, before 1,000%. Start somewhere, before
1,000%. That would be a good place to start.
Yeah. Let's murder is bad.
Yeah.
First of all.
Yeah.
Just want to put that on the record. I want to come out and say that.
Because it had to be said.
Murder.
In case you didn't know where we stand on murder.
But even then, why put yourself in a position for cats to, like I said, to come sniff around?
Bro, why should I have to?
Well, but that's the art.
Why should I have to put limits around what I can do with my art off the chance that it gets used?
If you murk somebody. Are you gonna just put yourself in?
I'm not saying if the person rapping it has killed somebody.
Yeah,
but
that's the notion I'm coming in.
But everybody, whether or not you have a body, is gonna have to then put blockers on their art because of something like that.
Yeah.
Like, not only people who have a case pending, like people who are completely innocent are gonna have to be like, damn. In case they implicate me in like some kind of RICO thing, I can't have XYZ lyrics in my song, even if I'm personally clean, because there's a precedent now that anything that I say can be thrown back in my face in court. That's not right, and it only seems to happen for this genre, and like I can't get with that all the way.
Imagine you had to have your lawyer like look at your lyrics before they went out.
Could you imagine Puff rapping about freak offs?
I mean, he kind of has, but
has he?
Not like directly, but Puffsy's made songs about having.
Menage, but like,
well, the old cats would have said, "See, that's the problem. Is y'all just, we got away with it. We were under the radar for the longest time."
Even like Jay-Z.
Oh, him selling bricks and all that.
Oh, he's rapped about he said the address of where he sold drugs. He's at 560 State Street. I was selling bricks out of there, and I was in the car with this person, and I gave the gun to Tai Tai.
His whole verse on Seen It All, yeah.
It's like, all right, do we just? Is the statute of limitations what?
I think it does work in his favor.
Well,
it definitely does work in Ho's favor.
It can't be okay for Jay-Z.
Ho was pushing them bricks in the 80s.
I'm saying it can't be okay for Jay and then bad for these kids who look up to Jay.
Because they're doing it like a year after the fact.
Jay-Z was selling drugs in 95 and rapping about it in 96.
YMW Melly's joint came, a year after he clipped those? Allegedly.
Bro, Reasonable Doubt came out in 96. Jay-Z was selling drugs 2 years before that. Biggie was selling drugs while he was making music.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a new thing, and it can't be like, oh, these kids are white, which, yes, a lot of these young people are fucking wilding, and I will say that, but we can't take away like their artistic outlet because we want to pigeonhole him into a law that doesn't even fucking really exist. Like, that's crazy to me.
You know what this reminds me of? Totally, it's a bit different, but 50, when he put out Ghetto Quran, how the cops use that song.
50 also got shot for that, but, you know. Hey,
you see what I'm saying?
those are yeah, that's what comes with it.
That's crazy.
It comes in many forms.
Hey, bro,
like, why?
You take the risk that you take. But, no, I think it's ridiculous, man. Like, you know, I think it's very much like listening to Durk. Let's, like, focusing on Durk. A lot of Durk's music is like catharsis from having gone through the shit he's gone through, a lot of which involved, you know, a lot of illegal activities.
Right.
He's allegedly on trial for this. He's about to be on trial for, you know, murdering a hit. I think that's fucking terrible. As Trevor said, murder's bad. But using using his lyrics as it sets a precedent that I think will be very dangerous. And if we were to apply it across the board, as Kyle says, I think it would just be a complete mess. And I think once you start doing that, you'll see that if we were to apply it across the board, it wouldn't hold up. It wouldn't hold up to scrutiny. It's only with us where it's like, yeah, we know you. It's almost as if like we know you guys are guilty. This is just like icing on the cake.
Yeah.
You know, like we don't even need this shit.
You start
this
with
is
the conclusion and work backwards.
Right.
Yeah, like, yo, you like using Young Thug's lyrics in court is crazy to me because like if you see the clips of them in court where they're reading the lyrics, these motherfuckers don't know what Thug is saying. If you were to play them the fucking lyric, if you play them the song, they have no idea what Thug is talking about. They had to have people in court deciphering the shit.
I was gonna say they probably hired, you know, some other dudes to do some, you know, Google Translate type shit.
It's crazy.
Google Translate Young Thug lyrics. You know what I mean?
Jurors got homework at night. Wow.
It's just I just like Dane said, dangerous precedent that would just disproportionately impact this genre and black men. I really would. Even though across genres people sing about all kinds of stuff. There's an entire genre of country ballads about murdering and robbing people.
And drunk driving. And it's like, all right.
The likelihood that you see any of those get pulled up in court against an artist, you know, of those genres is probably slim to none, like especially in comparison to hip hop. And it's just, I don't think this is a precedent that we should be setting at all. I think if your case is strong enough, lyrics shouldn't be there at all.
Fair.
And based on what we're seeing with this indictment, it seems like, I mean, you know, there is no mention of lyrics or anything like that.
Yeah,
obviously,
not
that would be, you know, down the road of the trial. But based on the probable cause summary, seems like they have plenty to go on.
I mean, they have
for their case. So
his childhood friend wearing a wire for multiple years.
Yo,
crazy.
Just wild.
I know that Denzel meme. I just when you slap the tape, like, it's like, God damn it,
bro.
Like, this is.
Yeah, I hate to see it with Durk. I mean, we don't know if and when he'll see daylight. But
He just got his record cleared
right
earlier this year too.
Yeah, prayers out to the families involved in this case.
I'm just gonna say, based on what's in the indictment, the prosecutor says, I know that Banks has attempted to publicly distance himself from suspected gang and/or criminal activity, and it's a Billboard link right there. So shout out to us for being.
Shout out to us. Shout out
It's
to Bill.
like,
Dan,
on the record.
you have this kid who grows up in one of the worst neighborhoods in the country. He makes it out using music, and he tries to better the community so people don't follow in his footsteps. And they think that's bad.
You know who he sounds like?
They think it's smoke and mirrors, you know.
Sounds like Nino Brown, man. New Jack City. But we saw what happened with Nino.
There are no poppy fields in Harlem.
Listen. And my brother's keeper, man. That's all I want to know. Gentlemen.
Well, another trial to
I'm never calling Carl if
put on the docket.
I ain't wasting my call on you.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
I ain't gonna say that's crazy. Good luck.
I'll make sure you got a
Put a
little
little
something in the
something on the
comments. Yeah, I mean,
$5.
get the dope ramen. You know what I'm saying?
That's wild.
So we are a few days from D-Day. D-Day election. Kamala.
D-Day.
Trump 2024. Kamala came full force. Had Beyonce pull up in Houston. Beyonce, Kelly, and Tina for her. In Detroit, Eminem pulled up. Mr. Obama rapping "Lose Yourself." we've seen the women in hip hop really come out in full force to support Kamala. You know, Cardi, Glow, Meg. Haven't really seen too much on the male side. You know, we've seen Fat Joe, Quavo, E40, and then Trump has his supporters coming
And Plies.
through. And Plies. Shout out to
Just want
Plies.
to shout out Plies. He made a song called Mrs. 47.
Mrs. 47.
Let's fucking go, Plies.
Shout out to
Man,
Plies.
Yeah.
While Trump, on the other hand, you know, usual suspects, Waka Flocka, you know, Chef G. How do you guys feel hip hop has shown up in this election, and have more could have been done, you know, especially for the Kamala side, from the male side, to help her out in that regard?
I think hip hop showed up pretty poorly.
Mm.
It you know, as I'm not saying you should blindly support anybody, and I don't think we like owe our vote to anyone, but there's been a startling lack of insight from the rap community when it comes to this, and from a few like elders that you mentioned, they've been very, very loud and they voice their opinions, and they've been there, but man, it really feels like rap kind of gave up this election. We kind of sat this one out. It's weird to see. It's weird that most of the headlines when it came to male rappers, because I think the female rappers were always there. They're supporting, and they're on IG, and Cardi's always very, very political, and she's I think shout out to them. But man, the men to me have been very disappointing. I expected more, even if they don't endorse anybody. I think having the conversation around the election and making sure that their fans are even engaged enough to participate, to me was the bare minimum, and I didn't even see that. And I remember when Obama was running, and it felt like the entire community was involved.
Yeah.
Like even without Jeezy's "My President's Black," like it felt like we were all invested in this outcome.
The Vote or Die campaign was big.
All of that. Like
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because it feels like the whole world is kind of on tilt right now, and that people are consumed with other things, but yeah, it feels like hip hop kind of abdicated responsibility for this election.
I also think it's the first presidential election, at least for Black people, where in terms of the candidates, it's a Black woman and it's not a Black man. And I think that also was one of the reasons why I feel there was less fervent engagement from the men in hip hop.
Right.
Black men don't really like to be decentered in any conversation at all, and by default, with Kamala being the nominee, they're not centered. And suddenly, stuff like reproductive rights is really thrust into the forefront. That's not really a calling card for a lot of Black men, unfortunately.
Even though it fucking should be.
It really should be.
Like,
Hello.
Really
Come
fucking
on.
should be, especially a lot of these rappers. But that's neither here nor there.
Zero
But
pullout game. That's all I'm
I
saying.
think Dame touched on this earlier, but it's like what's startling to me is the difference in the ages that showed up for these
Yeah.
different candidates. Like it feels like the younger women in hip hop are definitely very politically engaged, talking about this election, whether they're on Trump or Kamala's side, but it feels like their age mates on the male side are just completely disengaged and disinterested. And I think it might have been different had this been a man, but I'm not completely sure that it would have made that much a difference either. I just feel like there's a general disconnect with political engagement and Black male youth in America right now.
Yeah, it kind of feels like there's, if you look at popular hip hop media right now, there's been articles that written about this, a lot of reporting done on this. A lot of the talking heads we see, like streamers and online figures, I think if you were to chart them, they would be politically center right.
Yes.
And I don't know why that is. I think
Manosphere,
there's been a
baby.
generational pushback, the whole woke thing, and the idea of not wanting to deal with progress, to Kyle's point, that isn't directly centered on them, has been a problem. I think they are marketed to more in a way that we weren't, and I think all of that has kind of led to the fans and the artists also going that way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if most of the most popular talking heads are spouting all of this like disinformation and right wing talking points, like far right talking points, and they're the people you have to kind of go through to reach the youth. I can see them, not speaking up as much, or not wanting to rock the boat, or just kind of going with it because they're like, yeah, this is what's in vogue, this is what's cool, and not doing as much, research as they should.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely also been, I guess, some attempts to recognize that and do some things about that. So it was a little crazy that in the past couple of weeks we saw, I think it really kicked off with the Obama sort of lecture, to a lot of black men, where he basically said what the quiet part that people were sort of worried about is, are black men willing and able to show up to support a black woman? Now, there was obviously a lot of pushback from that because, like I saw, Wendell Pierce was probably one of the first ones to come out and say, like, well, black men are still heavily a very reliable Democratic voting base. So to sit here and pretend like, 80-85% of black men are out here, doing this, like, this is sort of a scapegoating problem. So even that caused some division. But then you have Kamala Harris sort of needing to pivot to putting out a specific plan, like about, okay, this is how black men will benefit from policies that in theory are going to benefit everybody. But, here we go. Like, okay, if you need a special call out, okay, we'll have it. Yeah, obviously, like, I think men in general are moving towards the Republican Party. And so you are seeing, Trump and the Republican Party in particular making more gains with he's probably going to get more share of the black vote this time around than he did, in any of his previous elections. But to Dame's point, I think it's interesting that, regardless of whether, you want to break down whose policies are better and where it sets up, I guess particularly from our stars, like the lack of engagement with the process at all is very interesting. And, some people, of course, will suggest that maybe that means that their position is not going to be one that's going to be matched with their fan base. Or maybe they're not as politically engaged as we would like them to be. It kind of reminds me of we heard that Ply song he put out, and he was kind of talking. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but he was talking in the opening about, his grandma was crying when Obama was elected and everything, and he even says right then, like, I don't really get, like, why it was such a big deal until now we're almost 20 years later, and now we understand the impact of that. So it's very likely that, I mean, even though they are superstars and they have these platforms and these, positions, and we want them to be role models and everything, a lot of these cats are just 20-year-old kids doing 20-year-old stuff. And we know, in general, 20-year-olds, the youth vote is not, plenty of people are not going to vote, even though it is the most important election of our lifetime. And you hear all the messaging, you got all the surrogates and things like that. At the end of the day, it's like, okay, like, I'm 24, bro. Like, whatever. I'm going to be fine. Doesn't really affect me. Doesn't really matter to me. So, but at a time when, everybody from Taylor to Beyonce to, everybody around the world is showing up, it is surprising that nobody, and I don't want to necessarily single out anybody, but, like, I am surprised maybe someone like Kendrick, who has been, I know it's not politically, that's always been a sort of thorny thing, but in a year where he's been very active, very influential, even just like a get out the vote kind of thing, I'm surprised that that hasn't come through from someone, like of his stature or something like that. So there's still, of course, time, and, maybe people will do that little October surprise, and hopefully this weekend,
Dog, it's about to be November on Friday.
I know, but look, you gotta, look, Beyonce came, in 2016, she came through with that 11th hour, and, surprised
how did that work out?
It's surprised that we're not going no.
Slow down.
We're not to Ohio, right? Well,
Slow down.
How did that work out? I'm just saying.
We're not going to sit here and say
How did that work
Beyonce
out?
flipped the election.
How did that work out?
But, I mean, that's all you can hope. And,
One thing I did want to add also is that, the conflict in the Middle East and how that's played out in the past year has also really disinterested a lot of youth voters from really having a say for either candidate because they're not happy with where either candidate lands on that issue. That's something that Globdat 4000 also brought up in addition to his own personal experience with Kamala being a DA in California when he was growing up and having a hand in locking his mother up. He also mentioned, he was like, I don't love, her stance on this conflict, and that's another reason why I'm not voting for anybody in this election. So there's something to be said about that, and there's a segment of, young voters who it really isn't even like a party thing for them. It's like this issue is not being addressed adequately for them by either side, and that's turned them off to this entire thing.
All I'm gonna say is, if you guys have 15 minutes, go on YouTube, type in Project 2025. When Trevor says, like, especially cats, 18 and up, this election is really gonna affect y'all more than you believe. Black men, especially, So please give it a read or give it a watch whenever you can, because a lot of shit will unfold.
Yeah, I think I just want to the media thing. I think is something just not to gloss over as it pertains to rappers and hip hop. And we were talking last episode about the lack of or like the state of hip hop media, and it's not a surprise to me that as the number of outlets dwindles, and as people believe the state of hip hop journalism has also been diminished, that we see a lack of information among not only rappers but the fan base. And I think those two things are directly correlated. And I think about Taraji at the BET Awards.
Yeah.
When she mentioned Project 2025, immediately just in my own personal orbit, I heard people talking about it way more after she mentioned it. The Google searches for Project 2025 after she mentioned it skyrocketed.
Yep.
And it's like that sort of thing is what I think was missing a lot in this election. There was no place for this discussion or for people to go and learn. And I think people joke about media and they make all these wisecracks about it, but it's very important. I think Ta-Nehisi, when he was on his book tour for his latest book, he kept drilling home this idea that your politics are not just what happens on the ballot.
Yeah.
Your politics is not just your vote. Politics is everything that takes place right up until that moment. And he says a lot of that is the media. A lot of that is what you consume. And if there's not a lot of shit out there that's informing our demographic about not only just like the Democratic Party, but just about the entire stakes and the process and how everything works, the small machinations that lead us to where we are, it's tough to expect them to know what's going on. And so I think the responsibility is on them for sure, but it's also I think a bigger issue that will get worse if it's not addressed.
And to expand on that, it's like this all happening right after Hip Hop 50 is also like really in the forefront of my mind, because there's no reason why hip hop should be so present in the election process, with Megan and Quavo stumping and Beyonce out here and stuff like that. It's so present. It's being used as a tool to get people to these rallies, but at the same time, its lyrics are being criminalized, and we don't have a structure to actually have the culture talk about the culture.
Right.
And that's why we're left with an electorate that's honestly probably less engaged and less educated about this stuff than the ones that came before them, and it should really be the exact opposite. But this is just another reminder for us to really just take this back, because it really does feel like hip hop, this is a nexus point for hip hop being like actually taken out of our hands for real, because it's a tool of the state. Even if it has been a tool of the state for a minute now, but like this is on full display.
So get KRS-One on the phone.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was this aloof when I was 18, 21. But best advice, y'all, go vote. Yeah. Your vote does matter. So
have a voting plan.
Read a book. Yeah.
Check your locations.
Yeah. Be ready. I mean, not just, and I know president obviously gets all the shine, but top down, whether it's governor, senate,
your local courts,
all that. So much more on the ballot than just who's running the whole show.
Listen, in case this is our last episode, just want to say I love y'all. Yeah.
I'm sorry. What?
You know what I'm saying? It's been a good ride.
It's been a cool few months, y'all.
Yeah.
See y'all on the other side.
Nah, real talk. We'll be back with a fresh episode of Billboard Unfiltered. See you guys soon.